corrections for the minutes? Do we ask a member to confirm the minutes? So moved by member Cavan Gale, seconded by member Miller. Any matters arising from the minutes? There's one in the last paragraph before the closing remarks, and it relates to disqualifying offense. And it said the chair noted that the decision on the wording for the term disqualifying offense will be treated at the next meeting of the committee, which would be this meeting. All right, we'll move on to item 7, matters for discussion. The first one is the proposed disqualifying offenses. Council.
Chair, good afternoon, members, colleagues, all. The matter that's to be treated with in relation to the offenses, as far as I can recall, is to agree to the schedule that was provided to us by the Legal Reform Department, and for the term disqualifying offense to be properly defined under the bill.
Could you give us a definition?
Based on the guidance from the drafter, the definition would read, disqualifying offense means an offense specified in the first schedule. So the first schedule would list the offenses based on what we were provided with. So that would be that would be the reference for the definition.
So, Chair, that would be replacing the previous one as per the bill. Means any offense for which the penalties are terms of imprisonment of 2 years or more, and stick with just what is contained in the schedule. And we make the assumption that the sanctions that may be imposed, how will we relate those sanctions? In other words, this was saying that this defined a period of a sanction for disqualifying offenses. So in this case, whatever those sanctions are that would have been listed in there, we're treating with it. But the overarching intention is to use this as definitive for determining disqualifying offenses. Okay.
Yes, member.
to the committee members. You heard the definition of the term disqualifying offense. So moved. So accepted. You have a second?
Aye.
Based on the clarification that I had sought, I'm accepting the definition.
All right, thank you, members. We'll move on to the second item, which is a review of the draft report on the committee's deliberations on the bill.
The first action was to agree on how the term. I believe the next action is to agree on the list of schedule, isn't it? For the committee to agree on the list of schedule.
Okay, okay, member. So, Council, can you refresh our minds in terms of these offenses? Because I thought we had gone through and created a much smaller list, right, member? Yeah, yeah. Which is like a 3-page list that we have. So, Council?
Based on my record, Chair, the list that we were last working with was from 1 to 16, starting with the Child Care and Protection Act and ending with offenses at common law.
All right, so this is a list of offenses which constitute disqualifying offenses that requires members to approve. And so it would include any offense under sections 9 and 10 of the Child Care and Protection Act, any offense under the following provisions of the Child Pornography Prevention Act, any offense under the following provisions of the Criminal Justice Suppression of Criminal Organization Act, any offense under the following provisions of the Dangerous Drug Act, any offenses under the following provisions of the Cyber Crimes Act, any offense under the following provisions of the Larceny Act, any offense under the following provisions of the Predial Larceny Prevention Act, any offense under the following provisions of the Terrorism Prevention Act, Any offense under the following provisions of the Law Reform Fraudulent Transactions Special Provisions Act. Any offense under the following provisions of the Malicious Injuries to Property Act. Any offense under the following provisions of the Trafficking in Persons Prevention, Suppression, and Punishment Act. Any offense under the following provision of the Sexual Offences Act. Any offense under the following provisions of the Firearms Prohibition, Restriction, and Regulation Act. Any offense under the following provisions of the Proceeds of Crime Act. Any offense under the following provisions of the Offenses Against the Person Act. And finally, offenses at common law. So I call on the members to confirm these offenses which constitute disqualifying offenses. Member Gale?
There would have been a previous listing that was very extensive and exhaustive, and I think the committee would have raised some concerns about the inclusion of certain offenses in that list, and we would have received a revised list which appears to have connected somewhat with, in reality, offenses that could be supported as part of a schedule. And for me, I have no difficulty in accepting what has been proposed and recommended.
Thank you, Member Gale. Do we have a second committee member? Member Miller? All right, I understand what you're saying.
Second, Madam Chair, but I'm also asking this update late to be recent because I was just looking for the full list of offenses, but I was not able to see it just now. But I'm seconding.
All right, sorry, Member Gabriel. Is she looking for the more extensive offenses? All right, that document was many, many pages thick, and we spent time going through and weeding out some of the ones that we didn't think met the threshold to disqualify someone. I'm going to ask that we recommit.
Confirm.
Oh,
I did.
confirm, okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Member Miller. All right, we will move on to item 2, which is the draft report. And it's here for consideration this afternoon. Council? My understanding is the technical team or the chair would normally go through. All right, committee members, I will go through through page 1 to 3 into 4, and then we can pick up on the findings and recommendations. So, starting at the very top, this is a draft report on the deliberations of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the bill shortly entitled the Jamaica Teaching Council Act 2022. Number 1, establishment, composition, and powers of the committee. Members of the House are reminded that on the 10th day of February 2022, on a motion made by all right. So this is the introduction to remind us who the members are, how many meetings we've had, how many persons came to the Parliament, or institutions or entities came to the Parliament and presented. It reminds us, it gives us an overview of what happened over the last couple of years. So we'll move through findings and recommendations. So the committee now has the honor of presenting its findings and recommendations after an extensive review of the bill. Go ahead, Council.
Under the establishment, composition, and powers of the committee, for the introductory section, I think Jamaica Teachers Association is duplicated under the second paragraph. Page 3, second paragraph. The second paragraph, where it says your committee at its first sitting on February 15, 2022, it lists the name of the presenters. So Jamaica Teachers Association is listed twice. And in terms of the third paragraph, it says your committee first appointed to consider and report on the act. Should say bill, comma. Bill with a comma thereafter.
please carry on.
I think those are the corrections that I have seen in that section, and also just to indicate that in terms of the Education Act, to insert the year on the overview on page 4.
You got it, Mr. Nash? In the establishment, I know in the online version, at the very top it says, overall your committee held 37 meetings, but that's in red. Does that mean it's still uncertain? Because it's, all right, okay. All right, so we'll move on to the findings and recommendations. For general findings, observations, and recommendations, criminal police record check requirement. The committee agrees and recommends that police record checks should be required for persons entering the teaching profession upon registration, and for persons already in the system upon application for an authorization to teach or a license to teach. We note that the related provisions will have to be amended accordingly. All right, so members, I'm advised that as we go through each clause, we have to confirm. So we have the first one, which is a criminal police record check requirement. Are you in agreement with what's written here?
Chair, there are some corrections to be made under that section. Registration under paragraph 1. About line 5 says your committee noted that an individual convicted of an offense would have their license or authorization to teach revoked by the council. That should also be registration, based on my recollection of the agreement and the
Registration, license,
or authorization
okay.
to teach. And also when it says in comparison to the validity framework of a police record, we noted that the registration of a teacher or license of a teacher lasts for 5 years. For the registration, there is no specific time frame, so that would need to be reworded. The license lasts for 5 years, and then to also indicate that an authorization to teach lasts for 2 years.
Excuse me, Chair.
Please go ahead, SG.
Thanks. I noticed that Mrs. Gordon-Jones is making some smaller amendments, but I have a bigger point. Number one, I don't think this is a general finding, open bracket, observation, close bracket, and recommendation. Whatever is going to be said about the police record should be in the clause that dealt with it. So it should not be, it's not a general finding. That's the first thing. The second thing is the wording needs a lot more adjustment. So you don't have a validity time frame of a police record, because there is no such thing. it depends. Each organization will determine when the period within which they want to accept a police record, but I don't know what is meant by a validity time frame of a police record, especially in the context of this bill. I think the paragraph completely needs to be completely reworked, but it's also in the wrong place. The Attorney General's chambers can provide some support in terms of a rewording. I'm sorry, Chair, were you able to hear me?
Heard you loud and clear, SG. This
Okay.
council is looking through her records.
Yeah, but some of the language is not correct. It's not forensic. So this is why we're saying we're offering to assist at another later on, meaning we can do that in another day or two, provide some language for this. In any case, the language is not forensic. Really needs to be adjusted.
All right, we accept that.
No, I was just simply saying, Chair, once we receive that suggested language that would correct the wording and the offerings in terms of the proper placement, then the committee can approve and accept.
With respect, the committee can consider.
Thank you for that guidance, SG.
Right.
You may not agree with us.
All right, so we'll move on to item 2 then. Roles and functions of the JTC Council.
So I have a similar comment with this one as well, Chair.
Please go ahead, please go ahead.
I don't think it's the right placement. We have areas and areas in the bill where this would be better placed and not as a general finding. So this is not what we usually consider to be a sort of general finding, open bracket, close bracket, observation and recommendation. And then also the language is also, again, if you go through it and you read it, you'll see that I don't think it really captures the sort of summary of the consideration of the committee on the matter. And in any case, it would need to go at an appropriate place and it would need to then reflect the decision of the committee as it relates to what you want the JTC to do and what you want the PPCC to do. So you would, at the appropriate place, you would have your summary and then you would have the findings of the committee.
All right, so SG, the question is, should we allow the chambers to look at this draft report first?
Yeah, we don't have a difficulty because that is a service we usually provide. The only thing is that we don't want to hold up the deliberations of the committee either. So, yes, I mean, we can do that in the interim. Hope you understand what I'm saying.
Chair, based on what SG had indicated, and for the expedience of these deliberations, I would tend to agree to give them the opportunity to do the review. And because what we want to do as a committee is to seek realignment in making whatever recommendations that would form part of a report. There's alignment. So I would allow the chambers to do that and then come back to us. I don't see it as part of holding up the deliberations of the committee.
So I take it that council would be in touch. Go ahead, member. Sorry, member, but you have a very bad. Member Miller, your connectivity is extremely poor.
Let me apologize, Madam Chair. And I'm saying sorry for my cameras so as not to detain the committee with that.
Could you say that again? We didn't quite catch everything you said.
I'm in full agreement with the recommendation.
All right, thank you, member. All right, SG, would your review include the recommendations as well? Because as I look at the clause by clause.
We could go through the entire report, you know, all, well, 50, we're not going to go to the meeting attendance, but I mean, up to page 50. And we would try to check our records as best as possible. So if we think there is, and we would be accepting, I mean, look, Mr. Nash would have had the records with him. So our review, yes, we will try to, from our perspective, check to see if it's accurate as well, but it's more to look at the language and perhaps placement of things and so on. What we can do is a markup and provide you with both a markup and a clean copy.
All right.
And we would work from the document shared today or yesterday, this recent version, because I know there was a version before that we started looking at. So the only other issue is, and I know you are strapped for time. So here begins the negotiations. Would we be able to get 2 weeks? If not, what we could do, Chair, is try to go up to, I don't know, a few pages for your next meeting. But if we could get maybe 2 weeks, we could try to just do the entire document.
right, SG, our next meeting is April 25th. Yes, so I think that would give enough time. Yeah. No. 2. Yes. All right, SG.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We did note though that there are in one or two places, a few places, Mr. Nash would have indicated that decisions were to be confirmed. So I don't know if you want to even look at a couple of those today or you want to wait. Because we wouldn't be able to deal with that. That's for the committee to take decisions on.
Okay. All right. Could you point us to the specific ones, SG, that you've seen?
So I think the first one I'm seeing is on page 6. Granted, this is still under the same general observation thing about disciplinary action, suspension in relation to matters before the court. Although again, as I said, to me, the placement is wrong, but I see that a decision needs to be confirmed. So perhaps the committee would want to just at least review and take their decision so then we could make the adjustments. So it says your committee noted the gap in the system which places a teacher or instructor on either special leave with pay or similar conditions if they are before the court on a charge. We recommend the suspension of individuals in cases where they are charged with an offense and for the disciplinary action to not be limited to disqualifying offenses. This is actually saying a lot. But the note from Mr. Nash is that the decision is to be confirmed, which means that from his records, the committee did not take a decision.
SG Council is saying that this was confirmed in the last meeting based on her notes.
Oh, so then maybe Mr. Nash needs to, I'm looking at a document where Mr. Nash has put decision to be confirmed. And normally we rely on the clerk, committee clerk for that.
Chair, if you look at page 5 of the last minutes, paragraph 2, effect of suspension of registration, license, or authorization to teach.
All right, he's saying that there's a need for confirmation. So it was brought up, it was discussed, but it was not, it appears it was not literally confirmed. Huh? those online if you are not able to see in the Parliament. There's some conversations ongoing, some checks going with the legal counsel. All right. So SG, we are agreeing that you have the time until April 2025. We convene. We're asking our legal team as well to confer with SG, anybody else, so that we get a report back at the next meeting where all the corrections will be in that report. Agreed, Council? All right. And we'll obviously circulate it to members before we get back to this meeting. So members, if there, as you read, if there are any questions, you should feel free to ask those as well. So when we get back, we don't have to spend a lot of time going through sentence by sentence.
Chair, could we get the report more than a day before the next meeting? Please.
The corrected version, yes, SG has asked for 2 weeks, and then there are several days before the next meeting. So at the end of 2 weeks, we look forward to getting that report, which would be a combination of the legal persons and the SG, and then members would have a chance to go through it before we meet back again on the 25th.
Chair, SG has suggested that committee looks at the sections that are highlighted in the draft report now. Are we going to do that? Because as she said that in her review, the chambers will not be able to address those areas.
I have a black and white copy. So I don't have it in color. So which ones, for example?
Oh, so there are quite a few. It has the comments at the side of the document. So the first one, as SG pointed out, was in relation to the disciplinary action. And the second one is in relation to the definition of teach and tutor. That's on page 6, the last paragraph.
From my mind, I like to go through in sequence. And I don't want us to, if we pursue attending to these, and when we go back through the corrected versions, some of them might be interrelated. I would prefer us to get that corrected version with the necessary amendments, and we flow as we go along. That's my preference.
I share Senator Gill's views.
Madam Chair, Marlene Aldred again. What we could do then, and it may make the process easier, because some of these earlier issues, would have to refresh the members' memories. Normally what we do is we'll be flipping back to minutes to read perhaps a little from where these matters were reflected and recorded. So perhaps it may actually be useful if this exercise is done at the next meeting. What we will undertake to do, though, is be in communication with Mr. Nash, so at least he can help to direct us to the different areas of the minutes where he would have pulled some of these decisions from, to make it a little easier, and then we can try and help the committee to go through the new draft.
All right. In addition to Mr. Nash as well, I'd love to know that our legal team would have weighed in on that revised report as well. Agreed, Mrs. Sherland? And yes, so that when we come here, we're not, we're on one page. We're not in disagreement and have to be going through and searching the minutes and all of that. All right? All right, so in terms of the timeline then, between now and April 18th, for any revision revisions to the report. And then after that, it will be circulated to members in time for the April 25th meeting at 2 p.m. All right, we will bring this meeting to a close. Any other business before we go? We've already announced the date of the next meeting. Just to repeat, April 25th at 2 p.m. Report back by April 18th, allowing the members enough time to take a look at the report before we get back here. And so with that, let me thank members for your participation this afternoon, and see you back here on April 25th at 2 p.m. Thank you so much. Meeting is adjourned.